Hey, what's up everyone? Welcome back. We hope y'all are doing amazing. So Brittany and I thought we would do another Q&A video today because you guys seem to enjoy the last one, and there have been quite a number of questions and comments that keep coming up since we made the last one that we wanted to address in this video. We really need to make something on Instagram where you guys can feed us suggestions on what kind of questions you want us to answer. But in this video, we're gonna answer basically like themes that we've seen in the comments section, things that keep coming up that you guys seem to be more interested in. And if you had a question that you want us to answer that we didn't get to today, please let us know in the comments.
Or you could DM us on Instagram at It's Mike and Brit.
Yeah, and we can either reply to you there or we can just save it for our next Q&A video. But yeah, with that being said, let's get into it. All right, so the first question comes from Captain Hiltz. Captain Hiltz says, why'd they even do the debt-free scream just to go on a campaign afterwards saying all the things they didn't do in the program? As far as I can tell, they became debt-free using Dave's methods and then want to retroactively say the method doesn't work. Oh well, it's a free country, I suppose, so carry on. Well, first off, Captain, thanks for watching and thanks for the comment. So there are a few videos that Brittany and I have made that if a viewer only watches one of those videos or a couple of those videos, they could potentially come across with the opinion that this is what Brittany and I are doing, and this is not at all the case. And those of you who've been here for a while, I'm sure know that. We are not on a campaign trying to say that Dave's methods don't work, and we're not retroactively saying that either. His methods 100% do work. They have gotten us out of a terrible financial situation, and we would not be where we are today financially had it not been for Dave and his team. We also met him for a few minutes doing our debt-free scream. He seems like a wonderful guy.
Yeah.
That being said, there are a few things that Brittany and I have slightly different opinions about.
Right.
One of them, obviously, being credit cards. We think credit cards are okay for people who are using them basically like a debit card, paying things off as soon as it posts, not gathering interest, not using credit cards thinking that they're gonna make you wealthy, and not using them for things that you wouldn't already be purchasing in the first place. That's just our opinion. You know, we're not saying Dave is wrong. We're not saying that we're right. That's us. That's us. And there are a couple of other comments similar to Captain Hiltz. Kind of like the idea is, you know, are we still following Dave Ramsey or have we stopped following Dave Ramsey? So I'm gonna try and keep this answer as brief as possible, but it's not going to be a short one. When Brittany and I first heard of Dave Ramsey, we were in a very bad spot financially. We had $120,000 of debt, $1,600 a month of debt payments. So Brittany's father bought us 2 tickets to Dave Ramsey's live event one summer evening. And the 3 or 4 hours that we were in there totally changed how we think about money. Here he was talking about stuff that we had never heard of, this way of using money that we had never heard of. And we were like, this sounds a lot better than the path that we're on. Let's go over here and get rid of all of our debt and like become financially free, rather than live our lives as servants to all these different banks and being enslaved by all this debt that we had. When we first started the program, neither of us were thinking very much on our own about our money. Being introduced to Dave Ramsey was kind of like the catalyst for Brittany and I thinking on our own, by ourselves, about our finances. Going through Dave's program, we pretty much did everything to the T that he suggests. The only thing that we maybe did a little bit differently was we saved a little bit more in our emergency fund than he recommends. He recommends $1,000 as a baby emergency fund. We typically have between like $4,000, maybe $5,000 on the high end. That's just because we weren't very comfortable with only having $1,000 in there. And it paid off because there were a few instances where we needed more than $1,000 for an emergency.
Yeah, especially medical expenses with me.
Yeah. Going through that process of becoming debt-free for 3 years, saving up an emergency fund, and then being very well off for a few years after that, saving up an emergency fund, Brittany and I started thinking more and more and more for ourselves about finance. We're trying to get out of this habit that we had growing up of allowing other people to think for us. We very much want to think for ourselves, especially when it comes to our own money. Not to say that we don't mind taking advice from experts, right, or from people who know what they're doing, and Dave Ramsey obviously knows what he's doing. But we are not Dave Ramsey. We don't have his experiences. We have our own experiences, our own personalities. So I guess what I'm trying to say is, at the end of the day, like it's Brittany's and my money. It's not Dave's and it's not anybody else's. It's our money, and we're going to decide what to do with our money in ways that we feel is best for us. Our differing opinion about credit cards is part of that. The opinion that Brittany and I had at the beginning of our debt-free journey that we should have more than $1,000 in an emergency fund is part of that as well. And going into the future, another part of it will probably be regarding investing. Dave Ramsey recommends investing in mutual funds, growth in income, aggressive growth, and international. Brit and I are kind of both on the fence right now regarding mutual funds. We're doing a lot of research. That's not to say that we're not going to invest in any in the future, but we need to do a lot more research for ourselves so we can build up that knowledge base that we feel like we need right now so we can make our own decision for us rather than having other people make decisions for us. So in terms of investing, Brittany and I really want to start making more investing videos because that's kind of like the place in our lives we're at right now. And we have all sorts of books that we've just ordered.
Got all these books.
Yeah, we got a book by Tony Robbins here that I've been reading for the past few days. Rich Dad, Poor Dad, all sorts of like investing books. Here's one by John Bogle about index funds. So there's a lot of stuff we want to learn, and it's going to take time. We don't want to do something just because Dave Ramsey says we should do it.
We want to do our research first.
Yeah. So are we following Dave Ramsey? Yes and no. Yes and no. At the end of the day, we're going to do what we feel is best for us. And if it contradicts Dave Ramsey's advice, it means no disrespect to him or his team. We love the Ramsey team. We're just doing what we feel is best for us.
Our next question comes from Gonzalo Rodriguez, and they say, love the videos. Can you guys please talk about saving for a house down payment? Also, where in the Dave Ramsey steps would it fit in? Thanks. We really appreciate that question. So for us, after we paid off all of our debt in that 3-year time frame, we then saved up a 6-month emergency fund. And after that was when we started saving for our house down payment. So we would recommend after the emergency fund. That's just how we did it.
Yeah, the way we saved for a down payment for a house is pretty much the same way that we became debt free and the same way that we saved up a 6-month emergency fund. We became debt free by dedicating pretty much all of our money, all of our resources, all of our time to paying off all of our debt. Then to save up an emergency fund, the 6-month emergency fund, we dedicated all of our extra money, all of our time, all of our savings to that goal. We may have been a little bit more lenient saving for a down payment for a house, but we dedicated as much extra money as we could to a down payment for a house. And we just kept putting every little bit of extra money that we had in savings with the intention of saving up for a down payment. In terms of where it would fit in the baby steps, baby step number 1 is a $1,000 emergency fund. Baby step number 2 is pay off all your debt. Baby step number 3 is a fully funded emergency fund.
Which is your 3 to 6 months worth of expenses.
And then after that is pretty much where we put the down payment. So we just kind of extended this 6-month emergency fund baby step to saying, all right, well, 6-month emergency fund, and then on top of that, we're saving a bunch of money for a house.
And it was fairly easy to save up for our 6-month worth of expenses because we were still living well below our means to where we saved pretty quickly. It took us a lot longer, though, to save for a down payment for our house.
So up next, we have Jesse Molina. They say, hey guys, I'd like to know your story about meeting, marriage, family, and background, including your financial situation and jobs before. I love the journey, but how were the conversations leading up to the start? Thanks. Well, thank you for watching, Jesse.
And thanks for the question. This is going to be fun. We get to say how we met and everything.
Yeah, it's a pretty boring story, actually. So Brittany and I were both year-round swimmers, and we met at the swimming pool.
Yep.
And while we didn't really know each other all that well while we were both year-round swimmers, we both worked there, and we got to know each other more during work. There was one evening that we were kind of having like this end of the year.
It's like end of the year party celebration that we finished the summer, which is the most busiest time for us.
Yeah, and so we all had dinner together, Brittany and I and all the other staff. And at the end of the dinner, I guess a few of us were hanging around, just kind of chilling. And I mustered up as much courage as I could possibly muster up, looked across the table at Brittany and asked if she would maybe want to come back with a few other people again, because I didn't have the courage just to ask her back, just her and I.
Just us, yeah.
I was very shy when it came to talking to girls.
Yeah, and I said yes. And then the rest is history. We just both started hanging out and dating eventually, and
got married 7 years later. So in terms of our jobs, when we met, we were both we were both in school. We were both pretty young.
Yeah.
They were part-time. I think Brittany had a couple part-time jobs at the pool and in retail, and I had a single part-time job at the pool. And the vast majority of my energy and focus was on school and making it to the Olympics. That was kind of my goal. So we weren't making all that much. We were both broke, but still very much relying on our family's financial support to help us out. But that was kind of our jobs beforehand.
Yeah.
Nothing exciting. Broke college students, pretty much what we were.
Yeah. And then after that, I graduated from nursing school and then started to find work anywhere I could. But it took me a while to get a job in my field. So I worked retail until I got a nursing position. And then once I did, we got married, and I was working as a nurse, and then Michael was working doing some stuff for tutoring and getting a business started.
So in terms of the conversations that Brittany and I were having about money when we were dating, there really weren't many.
Yeah, there wasn't
because,
a lot.
like, we were both broke, as we said, and we were both kind of relying on our parents to support us financially still.
Yeah, and we were basically doing what everybody else around us was doing.
The financial conversations got more and more serious the closer Brittany and I got to being married. We kept both of our finances separate until we got married. But Brittany's father bought us a couple of tickets to a Dave Ramsey seminar like 1 or 2 months before we got married. And that's when we really started having serious conversations about money.
Yeah.
And
there was a huge shift
yeah.
to being focused on paying off debt. I don't think the conversation, looking back on it, was that hard to talk about because we both were in agreement that we needed to focus on getting out of debt and as quickly as possible.
Yeah.
So that helped us move forward and helped us in our debt-free journey.
It also brought us closer together as a couple.
Yeah, because we had this huge goal that we were both able to accomplish.
Yeah.
So it was really neat.
Yeah, like it forced us to be on the same page with pretty much everything. So that's kind of a good segue into the next question.
Yeah, and our next question comes from Lexi. She says, please make a video on how you kept your wedding so cheap. Also, new subscriber here, love your content. Thanks so much, Lexi.
Yeah, so I don't think we're going to make a separate video just because it's pretty simple. We just didn't spend a lot of money on our wedding. We were dead broke. We couldn't afford it. And when you don't have any money, it's really easy to not spend much.
Basically, I did a ton of research. Like how I said it was really easy.
I guess it was pretty easy for me.
It was really easy for you. So I did a lot of research and looked at a ton of different vendors. And I found vendors that were charging anywhere from $10,000 to $20,000 for your wedding and reception, all the way down to $1,000 and under. So they were charging a lot less. And what I found was if you want to have your wedding on a weekend, Sunday evening was the cheapest. And the vendor that we went with that was also the cheapest happened to be a local city courthouse. So it was really cheap. We ended up spending about $800 total for that venue, and we had a family friend cater the wedding, so my parents covered the cost of that. We had a family friend who was a minister as well who did the whole wedding. And my sister had a friend who was learning to become a photographer in school and wanted to take pictures for us, so we let her do that, and my parents gave her a little bit of money for that. So overall, we didn't spend anything else out of pocket besides the $800. Oh, but I should include that $800. It did include, I went to local grocery stores and found flowers that were cheaper than having a florist do them. And I tried to make it fun by getting my bridesmaids to create their own bouquets. And that was it. I also, for my bridesmaids, because we were so money conscious, I let them pick out and spend however much they wanted to on their dresses. I just had them pick the same color and the same shoe color, and that was it.
In researching wedding cakes, we also quickly found out that wedding cakes seemed to be extremely overpriced.
Yeah.
At least in our minds back then they were. So what we did was we got Cold Stone Ice Cream Creamery.
Yep, we got ice cream cakes for our wedding cakes.
Yeah, to make us
two different kinds.
2 very large ice cream cakes. We love Cold Stone.
Yeah.
And they were amazing. I think they were $80
total.
Yeah, $80 total.
Which did combine into that total $800 cost as well.
Yeah. Yeah, those are the best ice cream cakes I've ever had. They were amazing.
And they did a great job decorating them.
All right, next question comes from John McMahon. John, I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly. He says, I like the idea about credit cards being useful for necessities. I've seen this mentioned by other personal finance people too. Love the videos, guys. You've gained a new subscriber. Thank you very much, John. Question, could you share what credit card you use to pay easily on your app and get free stuff? Curious to use the strategy myself. I'm also a nerd about money. So Brit and I use a credit card from USAA. We've used USAA for banking for a long time, and they happen to have a credit card that pays 1% cash back. They have many different types of credit cards, but the one that we use pays anywhere between like 1 and 3 or 1 and 5%, just depending on what kind of purchases you make, whether it's groceries, gasoline, or just anything else. I think we earned 3% cash back on gasoline, a little less than that on groceries, and 1% on every other purchase. And USAA has an app that you can use to look at all of your accounts, credit card being one of them. And when we make a purchase with our credit card, it shows up as pending in our credit card account. And as soon as it has gone through, we can pay it off through our checking account that we have with them. And it's super simple. When something posts, we'll pay it off immediately.
Yep.
It's not like the cash is in a separate account, but it's kind of like up on the top as a potential reward. We can either redeem the rewards as cash and just have that cash put in our checking account or savings account, or we could use it as a credit toward anything we have on our credit card at the time. So since we usually don't have much on the credit card, we've just redeemed things as cash so far. So the thing with USAA is that it's like military only. I don't think you can become a USAA member if you're not military or have somebody who is military in your family. I'm also not sure if it's available for people who are not US citizens. I don't think it is. However, other companies out there have great cashback credit cards. Fidelity is one. I think Fidelity has a 2% cashback credit card, and that 2% is on basically anything you purchase. There's also other companies like Discover, and Chase is another one, that offer kind of like the same kind of thing, between 1% and 5%, just depending on what you're using it for, what kind of things you purchase on it. All right, another question regarding our wedding and getting married comes from Steve Barbian. I'd love to hear a video about budgeting for an engagement ring and a wedding while paying down debt. I've enjoyed your videos and money strategies and would like to hear what you did at that time. Well, thanks so much for the comment, Steve. Thanks for watching. So since we already answered the wedding thing, in terms of an engagement ring, basically what I did was I worked my butt off for 2 or 3 months straight during the summer to save up enough cash for like 60% of Brittany's engagement ring. And I financed the rest of it and paid that off like within 6 months, I think, of purchasing.
Yeah, you paid it off really quick.
But yeah, I basically just worked my butt off for 3 months straight during the summer, outside of school, when school was out. And that's how I was able to do it. This was well before the time period that Brittany and I started becoming debt-free or even got on that mindset of doing that.
Yeah.
So I think both of us had car notes at the time. This was just one more piece of debt that I had. Fortunately, I paid it off very quickly. So
I also used that engagement ring as my wedding band, so that's been the only ring I've had. And then we used a ring I had gotten Michael earlier that was really cheap as his wedding band. So yeah. Once we were on the debt-free program, we didn't spend any more money on any wedding bands or anything like that.
Yeah.
And that was it for your questions. If we missed any, please leave comments below so we can get to them. Or if there's a future video you want us to make, just let us know. And if you want to follow more, you can follow us on Instagram at It's Mike and Brit. And with all that, we'll see you next time.
See you guys.